Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to be ranking every single Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 2023 multiplayer map. For the sake of this video, I'm only going to be ranking brand new maps that were added to MW3, so this is not including any remasters, and I know this game was full of remasters. There were so many in the game. Obviously, the launch for the game was all remastered maps, but as I usually do for these rankings, I just want to focus on the new maps that Sledgehammer made specifically for this game. In dead last place is going to be Checkpoint. This map is pretty bad. It's the only map in this game that I genuinely think is actually really bad, and I'm not surprised it's as bad as it is, because this map was not even made for 6v6. It's actually just a section of Rebirth Island that they decided to throw into 6v6 for no reason other than just to add another map to the season. And I don't see the point of it because it's just so terrible. It has no flow to it whatsoever. It's just a jumbled mess of a bunch of stuff. It is a very small map as well, and I don't mind maps like that. I actually really do like small maps in this game, but when you have a small map that is also completely messy with its layout, you end up having really bad spawns, and then people just end up having some really weird sight lines on you when you spawn in right away, and that'll also happen to you the other way where people will spawn behind you. There's just no flow to this map at all. It's just not a good map. In number 17th spot is going to be Departures, and Departures has a very different issue than Checkpoint, where Departures is actually not that bad in terms of its layout. It's just way too big for 6v6. It's probably the biggest map in this game, at least in terms of the new maps, and I just don't really like how it plays. It plays very slow, there's usually not a lot of action going on, and all the action gets very much stuck into one section of the map, and it's not even like the middle of the map. It's one of the side lanes of the map, and it's just really odd how that plays. I don't personally enjoy it. I know some people probably do if you like that slower pace. I just don't really get much out of the experience. In number 16th spot, I've got Yard, and Yard is a map that I expected to like because, again, it is a smaller map, but I just don't enjoy the flow of it whatsoever, and it also has this really weird cartoony Borderlands art style to it, which is interesting for the map variants. They did a couple other map variants with the same sort of style, and I don't mind it being a map variant thing, but the fact that it's the only variant of Yard that exists kind of just makes the map not as enjoyable for me. I don't want to always see this art style every time I play the map, and unfortunately it's the only art style you ever get from this map. And like I said, the flow of it is not too great to me. In number 15th spot is going to be Tanked, and Tanked is a map that I'm actually surprised I sort of enjoyed, and yes, pretty much every single map from here on out is a map that I enjoy and think is a decent map, but Tanked is actually ripped from Vondel, so just like Checkpoint, this is not originally made for 6v6, which definitely holds it back quite a bit, but I think it somewhat works. It's not like great or anything, but I think it's totally fine. At least a couple times I've played it, it's actually a map I haven't played that frequently. It rarely comes up in the rotation, but I do think it can have some fun moments to it. It is pretty slow though, so I'll definitely take points away for it being kind of slow, but if you're playing 10v10, then I think obviously the pacing is a lot better. I think it fits a lot better in that mode. In number 14th spot, I've got Incline, and Incline is a really strange map because the layout itself looks like it should be a really solid map. It reminds me a lot of Summit from Black Ops 1, but I've never had that amazing of an experience while playing on this map. It's usually just okay. I'm just like, this is fine. I think a part of that is also the visuals. It's a very dull looking map. It has a snow theme to it, but for some reason the colors are really grayed and washed out, and it just doesn't look very appealing. In number 13th spot, I've got Greece, and we are finally at the maps now that I think are all pretty good. Yes, that's right, most of the maps in this game are good, which is a great thing. Sledgehammer absolutely killed it this year. But yes, Greece is really solid. It's not like a large map, but it's definitely bigger than most of them in this game. It's 3-laned, and it flows rather well. I just don't think it's as good as the other maps on this list. It's also a beautiful looking map. In number 12 spot, I've got Grime. Now, Grime is a really good map in terms of how it plays, so it gets all the credit there, but I just think the map doesn't look very appealing in terms of its visuals. It's a pretty gross looking map, so definitely holds it back at least a little bit, but in terms of just purely how it plays, I think most of the time it's pretty good. It's a very good competitive map, has that 3-lane structure, and everything kind of flows together nicely. In number 11 spot, I've got Tokyo. Tokyo is another one of the bigger maps in this game, and I think it's perfectly fine. There's a decent amount of action that goes through that center lane, but even some of the side lanes, I noticed there is a lot of action that will even go on the outskirts of this map, which is definitely nice to see. I think it's always good when a map has a lot of action all across the map, and it's also a gorgeous looking map. A map in Tokyo is just really cool. It's a really cool setting to utilize, and I'm definitely happy it exists. In the number 10 spot, I've got Bait. Bait is a very standard 3-lane map as well. Most of the maps in this game are very standard that are pretty decent for competitive. A lot of them are, which some people might not like that. They might think it's just too similar throughout all of them, but I personally think as long as they flow well and are enjoyable, then I'm all for it. And I really like the look of Bait. It has a cool vibe to it. It came out during the summertime, and it definitely fits that summer theme quite a bit. Hardpoint is definitely the best mode to play on this map. I mean, I think Hardpoint is most of the time one of my favorite modes on any map, but especially on this map, I feel like that is the mode you want to play. It flows so good. In the number 9 spot, I've got Vista, another gorgeous looking map that also plays really well. That's been a pretty common theme with these maps. They're gorgeous and they play well. It's really nice to have a Call of Duty like that, because I feel like last year with Modern Warfare 2, I was complaining about most of the maps in the game, and I'm so happy to just not be complaining. There's so many good maps in this game. There's so many phenomenal experiences. And yeah, Vista is one of those. I think Vista has a nice three-line structure, but it's also pretty vertical. There's also a lot of like places you can get higher up, and then you can go a bit lower, and it all works quite nicely. In the number 8 spot, I've got Emergency. So Emergency is one of these smaller maps in the game. There is a small map Mosh Pit that has a bunch of these smaller maps. Emergency is one of them, and I would say it's pretty solid. It has a 3-lane structure, but it's also a very tiny map, so the action is really intense, really fast-paced, which personally I like that when it's a game like MW3, where the mechanics work well with that. The time to kill is slow enough, the movement's fast enough to the point where the flow actually works. Like, I don't feel like I'm ever annoyed on this map. I'm never getting killed unjustly. If I die, it's because, I mean, I just wasn't better than the player, or I didn't outsmart the player, or whatever it may be. I feel like everything's very fair on this map, and most of the modes work very, very well on it. In the number 7 spot, I've got Get High. So Get High, of course, is a map that was added shortly after they added the Get High challenge course mode thing. I'm sure a lot of people have already played that, but a lot of people don't even know that a 6v6 map based on that style actually does exist in the game, and it's actually really, really cool. It's a small 3-lane map, but it is really fun. Obviously, the look of it is pretty out there, and I actually don't mind it. Like, I know I complained before about Yard having that art style that I wasn't crazy about, but when Get High did this, and I was like, okay, it's actually really different, but it actually kind of works. Like, it's obviously very out there, but I really enjoy it. And I like how there's some moving parts on the map. That's my favorite thing about it. There's like a middle area that has a platform that literally like moves random points during the match, and if you are on the platform when it moves, it'll drop you into spikes on the bottom. Like, stuff like that's really cool. I love interactable map features, things that change around on the map, and this part is really, really awesome. So I definitely think this is one of the best maps in the game. In the number 6 spot, I've got Drive Through. This is one of the brand new maps that was recently added to the game, and of course it is the Halloween themed map, and it is so damn cool. Most of my enjoyment of this map does come from the atmosphere and the art style and just what's going on with the actual map location itself. The layout is good, it's fun, don't get me wrong, but that's like not the main thing I'm talking about when I'm talking about this map, because yeah, 90% of my love for it is just the look of it itself. I also love the carousel, the fact that there's a moving carousel on the map. Just like I said before with Get High, having interactable features like that you can move around with and actually change how the map flow is really cool. And the carousel, it's not like a major part of the map, but it is fun to be like shooting other players while you're on the carousel. And yeah, overall, very happy this map exists. I love when they do Halloween themed things in Call of Duty. I really want to see more stuff like this because it is awesome. In the number 5 spot, I've got Stash House, another one of the really small maps in the game. This map is interesting because it's basically got the shape of a giant square, and then of course there's 3 different lanes, one that's cutting through the house, and then 2 that are kind of going through other parts. I guess one part's going through the garage, the other part's just going through the side of the house, and it's a really fast-paced map, obviously, so if you're not a fan of those, then you're probably not going to like this map. But again, like I said before, I think these small maps work really well in MW3. Every time I play this map, I have a good time. It's obviously good for grinding, it's good for camo grinding, but that's not the only reason I'm going to play the map. I enjoy playing it just for the gameplay too. Trying to go for streaks on a small map like this is really insane and really hectic, but I get a lot out of that experience. So personally, big fan of this map. In the number 4 spot, I've got Rio. Rio is a map that I've been definitely coming around on more recently. I think when it first came out, I thought it was fine. I thought it was enjoyable, but I wasn't like obsessed with it. But now I kind of am starting to get obsessed with it. I think it's a really solid 6v6 experience. It's got a good flow to it. Even though the map isn't a small map, it's kind of more medium-sized. It really flows nicely to the point where all of the action is pretty fast-paced, usually centered towards the middle of the map, but the outskirts get a little bit of action too. You can definitely snipe or use some longer range weapons on the outskirts. But there's so many interesting spots, so many interesting jump spots, so many interesting flanks you can do on this map that make it flow so nicely in pretty much every single mode. In number 3 spot, I've got Meat. So Meat is definitely the best small map in this game. It's not that different than a map like Stash House, but I feel like it's a bit longer. It's more of a rectangle as opposed to a square, and I think that works quite nicely. You have different reasons to use pretty much any gun in the game that you want. Like there's different sight lines that work for sniper rifles, but there's also plenty of close quarters areas. I like the map theme too. I mean, it's not the prettiest looking map ever, but it's got a creepy, eerie feel to it, and I think it's actually kind of cool. And yeah, in general, these small maps, like I said before, I do enjoy in this game, and this is no different. My second favorite map in the game is definitely Paris, and I'm surprised a lot of people don't really talk about Paris as much as I feel like this map deserves. It's such a great map. It reminds me of like an MW3 map in terms of like a really good MW3 map, something like Resistance, for example, the OG MW3 that is. It's just definitely give me those vibes. Obviously, the fact that it takes place in France is probably why I'm getting those vibes, but even just in how it flows, like it feels like it belongs in the OG MW3 and in like a good way, like one of the better maps in that game. And yeah, it flows really well. It's fantastic. It has 3 lanes, but the lanes jump into each other so interestingly because the middle lane kind of cuts through itself rather than being a like straight 3 parallel lines. And that one lane you can get from one building to the other by jumping onto the middle bus to get to the other building. And yeah, it's a great map. It's fantastic. I was very happy when they added it into Season 4 because the first time I played on it, I was having a blast. I think I got a swarm my like first time playing on it or something like that. I got a swarm one of my first games playing on it, and I was just having a blast. And ever since then, yes, I've been loving it more and more and more. But yes, the best map in Modern Warfare 3 is going to go to 6 Star. 6 Star is one of the best maps made in the past couple years, to be honest. Sledgehammer absolutely knocked it out of the park with this map. They designed one of the most visually pleasing maps we've ever seen, while also making it one of the best playing maps we've ever seen in pretty much every single mode. It reminds me a lot of a Black Ops 2 map in a sense, which is kind of interesting. I feel like a lot of the maps in this game remind me of maps that would take place in some other older Call of Duty games in like a good way. Like it would be one of the best maps in that game if it was in it. And 6 Star is no different. Like it really does give me Black Ops 2 vibes, and I think it is such a phenomenal time, especially the middle area. I just love how that flows. Like that's so chaotic. And then when you go to the pool area, that's also great. Every little area on this map has a purpose for the flow of the gameplay, and it just makes it all that much better. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I would love to hear your rankings of all of the maps in Modern Warfare 3. If you want to include the remasters as well, go for it. I will put a tier list on screen now of the remasters if you want to see my specific opinions on the remasters, but like I said, not going to include it for this video. I just wanted to keep consistency with my other map ranking videos where I don't include the remasters in them. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Peace out.